Hi, welcome back to Navigating the Shift. And we're talking shift today. Big shifts are happening this month. It's Red October month. But first, the news.
We've got about 4 major class action cases that are happening here in New South Wales, at least. And one of them is with lawyers that are the plaintiff, I think. And they are taking the health minister to the Supreme Court. They're accusing him of overreaching his powers, that he is putting in all these health orders and mandates that are not lawful. So they wanted to know what information he was using based on what advice he was doing it, and is there anybody that he can blame. So that started Thursday last week, and it was live streaming, but it kept getting cut off. So it was the first day we got up to morning tea break, and they say, okay, court's adjourned for morning tea, and it never came back. So that might have been that the assistant forgot to turn it back on again. But the next day we got a whole day, which was witnesses coming in, which was fantastic to watch. We've had a few more days. We had like a public holiday on the Monday. So we've had some more since then. I'm not sure if it's continuing today, but they've basically heard all the evidence, and now it's just up to the judge to make his judgment. And the guys who were the plaintiff, the lawyers, were very, very well-paced and asking questions. And the witnesses that were coming up were mostly for the plaintiff, right? The health minister. They were defending the health minister. And one in particular was there for a very long time. She's a university professor that works at the local children's hospital, but she is apparently an advisor, one of the major advisors, or she's on the panel that advises the health minister. And when they was just starting her questioning, the very first thing that the lawyer says, now, Judge, take note, this is the one that has received a fair amount of funding. Is that right? And she goes, well, yes, that's my organisation, not me personally. And he goes, okay. And then he moves on to the next thing. Because I've never watched a Supreme Court case before. So I would have thought that they would hammer it home and it's all the big show business, but it was not at all. He just sat there and he would listen to what she said, and then he would ask the next question without much of a response. And he hammered her. He just went on and on and on. So many questions over and over. And of course, this very first little detail of you've received some funding. We're like, well, what funding is that? So somebody went digging, of course, and came back with this enormous list of research grants and contracts awarded all pro-immunization, right? Millions and millions of dollars. Like wow. $9 million from the Ausvac Safety National Surveillance System, $17 million for immunization research and surveillance. I'm speeding over that for a reason. Another one from the main science team, Ausvac Safety National Surveillance Team again, $7 million. $5 million. Wow. Yeah, $5 million for technical clinical services and immunization for health protection in our state. Just millions and millions of dollars. Almost $5 million from the Australian Partnership for Preparedness, Research and Infectious Diseases Emergencies in 2016. So she's had years and years of pro-shot funding, basically. Is it any surprise as to what her attitude was? And so in the questioning, they're going, okay, well, we've seen your research. Here's a whole lot of other research that you must have been aware of because it's big. Right. So she admitted that she'd never treated anybody with the illness. And she was at the children's hospital. So she said, well, we've had nearly no cases at the children's hospital. So I've not even had a chance to go and see somebody who's had it. And he said, okay, well, here's a study of a guy who, a doctor who has treated more than 6,000 patients with this illness. And he only lost 3 patients out of 6,000. Because he was using the vitamin supplements that we all know about, and the ones done with IV, right? And they were all cured. Every single one of them was cured. He said, oh, did you take that into consideration? He goes, no, I don't agree with that. No.
I don't agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that. And he came up with one after the other of all these studies. And she just went, no. And it was so blatantly obvious. So that was quite good. That was great for the judge to see and for the public to see as well. And
exactly, getting information out.
Yeah, that's right. Of the 2 days I watched, there were very few witnesses. It was just them deliberating and, sparring, basically, the one lawyer and then the other lawyer. But I think, yeah, the lawyer on our side was doing very, very well. So I have good feeling about that.
Awesome.
And a good judge as well.
Oh, good.
Now, while that was happening, we also heard about Fair Work Australia. So I don't know what your equivalent is in America, but say you have a major problem at work or you've been treated poorly, like maybe unlawful dismissal kind of thing. If you needed to go to a government department for help or to find out the regulations, that's the equivalent of what I'm talking about.
All right.
What would it be for you?
Not sure.
Don't know. Okay. So ours is Fair Work Australia. And so that case was tried, and the lady there was a lady who was unlawfully dismissed, she is saying, because she was forced to have a shot and she disagreed. She was a receptionist. She wasn't working medically in an elderly home, I think. And so they tried her case and she lost, and then she appealed and she won. And that was the agreement that just came out, the whole decision. And it was written in great detail. And I've got the link as well. Great detail about how this is, completely immoral, unlawful, unethical, that they must be voluntary, that you cannot coerce people into doing this. You cannot force them out of their job because they haven't done it. And that's a federal government department.
Right.
Fair Work Australia. It's not just for one state. So we've got these class action cases happening in the state, which I was just telling you about, that had 800 cases attached to it, really big. But then you've got all this federal stuff going on as well that is saying it's not acceptable. So then, of course, once we heard about that, I think that decision was made the week before, but once we heard about it, our premier resigns. She disappeared.
Nice.
And then in bringing in the next guy, yeah, there's been lots of discussion about him, lots of people going, oh, I don't want him because he's a Catholic. But in fact, one of my friends found these photographs, which I'll show you now. The logo at the bottom is one of our major free-to-air television networks, showing him with frazzle drip images. See that little picture of the little red face with the flames up? It's very similar to Tom Hanks' Castaway, where he had, the hand on the ball, and that was his friend. Yep. And then Lady Gaga has made jokes about this and dressed that way as well. This is one of the symbols of the worst of them, the worst people in the world, in my view.
And you do not want to go look at videos of what that is.
No, not. I've seen a picture, and one photograph is enough. I never, ever want to see something like that again.
Exactly.
That was our premier, our new premier, this new young guy. His father works for the World Bank as the global lead for tourism in the International Finance Corporation, IFC, in Washington, D.C. That's his father.
Wow.
So this guy is not clean. He's done a lot of pro-Trump stuff on his Twitter account over the years. But to me, it just feels like that's just what you say because he knows that people are going to look back on it, and he knows he's in line. Even years before, he knows where he's going, where he's going to be promoted to. So I'm unsure about this guy. I don't know whether he's switched, whether he knows that he's in trouble and can't go any further. I just don't know. Did you say that you heard something about Melbourne as well?
Yeah, a woman named Tamara lives there, and she said she went into a coffee shop and talked to a guy, and they were talking about your premier resigning, and he said he worked for the government, and he had just a half an hour earlier gotten an email from the work assistant of their premier, and the email was, I will no longer be in this position. I will let you know what job I have when I do and give you my contact information. Oh. So the idea is that, well, he doesn't need her anymore because he ain't going to be there either. So it's the beginning.
He's got to go. My goodness, Dictator Dan. He's really bad. Yeah, he's just really pushing it so far. And he can't anymore. Not after this Fair Work Commission thing's come out. He's just, that's overreach, right? Same problem.
Yes.
And our union, I just want to drop in there, the police in our state are setting up a new union because their union must have been something similar to what the construction workers had been so violent about down in Melbourne when they discovered that the union had sold out to the government and was not on their side at all.
That's right. I remember seeing videos of that. They were mad. Yeah. So the first dominoes are starting to fall, and they're going to be building up this month. And the information I got intuitively was 3 or 4 weeks. And that will become the crescendo point where when it's like, yes, it's happening. Everything's falling. We're starting to see things happening now. The stuff with your premiere, we had Peter Nygaard, the fashion designer who is good friends with Prince Andrew, get arrested for running a pedophile ring.
Oh.
So they're starting to take them down. And then when one of the like Daily Mail or something like that, regular old newspapers in Britain, they ran a piece that said the Queen is paying for Prince Andrew's defense against people like Virginia Giuffre Roberts, who's, we all know that with the Epstein things and all that. So we're going to start seeing more and more stuff happening. And that's exciting. I feel really good about that. Some other intuitive information I got was that there's been big negotiations with the extraterrestrials, specifically the surrender agreements from some of the bad ETs. And that just recently, a couple days ago, those negotiations are complete. And there were human representatives there who were here to do the negotiation on the part of humans, and there were other extraterrestrial races there negotiating. And some of it was, do we negotiate? Do we let these beings live and just, somehow make them go away? Or can we do that? Are we willing to forgive in order to move along? And a lot of us humans have said, you know what? We need to end this. I don't need revenge. If, polarity is polarity, they're playing their role in human experience and, the whole thing that Source set up for us. We don't need to get revenge on them. Let them go as long as we can get them out of here and they can't come back. That's what matters. And then the other piece was that in the earthly realm, there have been negotiations going on with all the different countries on the planet on their terms going forward. They capitulated. We saw that tour that Trump did in
2017, right at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And that there's maybe 78% done with doing those negotiations here. So we have the negotiations up there, which are complete. And the negotiations down here are pretty close to complete. And that means that we get to do the flip. The media is going to flip all this other stuff, and people are going to be forced to wake up. It's going to be red pill happiness for us.
What about these ETs, though? Because I don't know why, for some reason, I've never been able to tune in and connect to any on this planet. I certainly believe that they're around. It's just ridiculous that we would think we're the only species in the universe. But I don't know why I can never connect in to them.
We talked to our team before we started recording.
No, I mean on this planet taking advantage of us.
Oh, the negative Anunnaki reptilian kind of story. Okay. I just remember long time ago, I was in my 20s, long before I knew any of this stuff. I had a dream that I think it was Atlantis, and I was running the whole power grid. So I was in a ship in space looking down on the planet, although I wasn't that far up. And so like not way out in space, but like in the upper atmosphere, something like that. Yeah. And we would somehow collect the sun's rays and then beam it down to various individual locations around this island, this big old island. And I was approached by a very handsome man who said, we're coming here, we're going to be taking over and be ruling, and we want to do it peacefully. But we can't do it peacefully. And he was so charming. And what we need you to do is just for a short amount of time is to shut down the grid so that we can make our point, and then we'll put you in a leadership position, not just of the power grid, but all of this. And while I was talking to him, I kept seeing like this overlay of like a reptilian face. And I chose to ignore it. Right. And it was a power. It was a long time ago. I've learned since then. But, we've all been the perpetrators, guys. So don't judge me. But and then what happened was I shut down the power grid and they just started, boom, just killing everybody. And I had a wife and family down there and people I loved and all that. And I was so upset and ashamed. I got into a small ship and crashed into the sea and killed myself. And the next like 3 or 4 lifetimes, I was like a beggar with no feet or a drug addict. I mean, I was the most scum, powerless, whatever of the earth. It was like, okay, here's the other experience. And part of it was, I made a choice. It's like, I can't be trusted with power. I have to make sure I don't have any temptations for power. Wow. So it's not like God judged me and said, you have to be a scum of the earth.
No,
it was
you
decide
for
my
yourself.
choice as a soul. Yeah, it's like, I can't touch power. I got to be careful. So that's why personal experience.
When we're looking at the shift of the earth now, as we're moving up into 5D, that the impression I get is that there will be a gap in the middle there where both exist, 3D and 5D exist for like 20 years. And then once all that's done, like we've got that amount of time to draw people up into the new reality, that the old earth will be switched off. That'll be the end of that experiment and we won't need that anymore. So if we're all moving up to 5D, we should, in theory, be a lot more psychic and therefore much harder to take advantage of. So if there are ETs there that we've got to decide what to do with them, that there's no worry about them ever coming back. So you could send them off. Farewell, off you go find yourself a new planet, preferably not without anybody on it.
And, a different universe.
That they, even if they came back, they'd never be able to fool us again, because the whole planes of time must cease to exist as well, I'm assuming, if 3D disappears.
My sense of it is that they can't interfere with that there. It's just too much of a contrast to their frequency that it would, if they came anywhere near here, they just blow up, getting anywhere in that frequency. So it's going to be good. We both have experienced how much lighter we'll feel. You had the experience of the pea soup.
Yeah. I fell into this situation where I suddenly felt heavy. And then I could feel myself looking down at myself in the heaviness, like trudging through pea and ham soup, so thick. And then realizing, well, what is this? And then it was a higher perspective looking down at 3D. So it should be extremely different, really, really different by the time we get out of this 3D.
Yeah. And my experience going to the New Earth and feeling it was like, and then another experience I had where I got healed and everything. I got I can't have this conversation or we'll be kicked off YouTube. Okay, we'll just bypass that. Anyway, I got some really lovely healing energy that was like overnight magical. Maybe I did mention something. Well, at any rate, is that you just feel lighter. You are literally less dense. And the experience I had was like, oh, this feels so good. I love having my body. It's so comfortable.
Right.
It's not only just comfortable, but it's so easy, and I've had chronic pain of various sorts all my life. So I've never really had a comfortable body. And so it's just like, oh yes. This is so good. Right.
We can move fast. We can think fast. We have a very clear mind. Imagine that. Because when we were kids, we had a much clearer mind, I'm sure. It was just as the toxins grew over the decades, being exposed to toxins in so many levels, that it slowed us down. But to suddenly have that clarity again, wow, imagine, because then you can really achieve your purpose, or you can create a new thing that you're going to do or have or be, or and just put it into action just like that. And people
Just like
around you will
that.
be aligned with it, and they'll be able to run with it as well. And that's where the creativity comes in. And that's what I cannot understand, this whole mentality of elites wanting to control the remaining survivors of like 10 or 20% of what's currently alive. Why would you want to do that when, you know, like,
that
you know
their
what I
plan.
mean? The reset, the great reset, you know, cull majority and control the rest, will, or make them transhuman or whatever. Like, why would you do that? This is a magnificent species that is so creative. Why would you want to stop that? Wouldn't you want to see how far it can go? I just don't get it. I don't get this whole controlling
It's
thing.
not the kind of person you are. You're service to others, not service to self. So
I don't get it.
yeah.
And Facebook went down too. WhatsApp, Instagram, all of them together.
Yeah.
6 hours. So
And
we
when
haven't really tuned
Facebook
in yet.
came back up, Trump had his Facebook page again.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Was he Donaldo?
So that's what?
Was he Donaldo, like on Twitter? Remember he had a Donaldo Trumpo Twitter account?
No, it was Donald Trump. It was him, the real deal. Evidently, although I don't do Facebook, but evidently he hasn't posted anything there yet, but it's there. And he's also fighting being kicked off of Twitter. And what's interesting is if the judge does say, yes, you know, approve Donald's side, then you know that Twitter's going to appeal, and then it goes up. And who does it go to? Clarence Thomas.
Who's that?
He's a Supreme Court justice who's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how long it'll take. The legal system is so slow.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that case, because we hadn't heard anything more about it as to whether it had got started. So it has got started now?
Yes, or about to. Anyway, it's happening.
So it's quite lovely that the court system that we thought was so incredibly corrupt is actually showing some good signs of life, isn't it? I think having so much attention on them is making a difference. Like our one, the one I watched a couple of days ago, there were 20,000 people watching. And that's only what YouTube was showing us, because the day before it said 300 people waiting. Like it wouldn't even show us who was actually watching. They were hiding that information. So if there's such a big audience, they know that they have to really go by the books. They cannot try and bend it off and give a decision that's not going to match what the majority wants.
And by the way, on the Facebook and everything being shut down, my read is it's a white hat operation. They're resetting things. And the fact that Trump's back on Facebook is pretty much proof of that. So I know there's a lot of stuff going around saying, oh, you know, the evil guys, and, you know, somebody hacked in and stole all your data, and that's what happened.
No. I was just trying to figure between the two as to whether it was turning it off to do some sort of upgrade that helped and removed a lot of the privacy data that they shouldn't have, or if it was like a threat that the military would keep it turned off until Facebook did something.
I think my hit is that it was to wipe clean some of the negative aspects of it. You know, the way it's designed to mess kids up by them seeking those likes or whatever it is. So that I think is being cleaned up. Like I said, I don't do Facebook. You do. Check it out. Notice if anything's different.
I noticed it was a little bit faster.
Uh-huh. That's
some
cool.
people had said, oh, they're transferring to Starlink. And I thought, well, I don't know. I'm not sure about that, because I thought Starlink was not necessarily a storage place.
Right.
And I don't think you can have one website on Starlink and other websites not on Starlink. I don't think it's going to be like that. So that explanation didn't feel right.
No, Starlink is communication, not storage, you know?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's 5G as well, apparently. So it's
my read is that, you know, the 5G isn't going to happen. We're already past that stuff. They can't do that anymore. There'll be something else that I think will be beneficial, there's something about the frequency of our internet, and I'm not
Yeah.
a tech guy.
Well,
That's
the
negative.
impression I have is that the 5G towers that they've been setting up all over the place while the lockdowns have been happening around the world, they're much lower frequency than is healthy for humans. So you certainly don't want to have a workplace or a place where you sleep near one of those towers. However, it's possible that those towers have had their hertz pushed up. It's not like they can't
Exactly.
work at a different hertz. It's just that they were deliberately set at a low hertz to damage our health. So
And they
surely
can be
you can,
adjusted.
yeah, maybe you can have 5G, but have the hertz higher so that it's more beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know certain frequencies are beneficial to life and certain frequencies are not. So, certainly that could be adjusted. And imagine if they become a good thing, a healing thing. That would be nice.
Yeah, I immediately start thinking of the churches again as well. We still haven't had that conversation about, ether and the idea of mud floods and all the rest. We have to have that sometime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we didn't do that. We didn't do that. Oh, well,
That's because you weren't well.
another
And we didn't get to
time.
do it.
Certainly not today.
No, we've done enough today. Yeah. So I hope
Yes.
that's
All
helpful
right.
to you. Feel free to put in comments below if you have any subjects that you want us to look at. And otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for being here. Bye.
Bye.